Hello and welcome to Reports from Arbroath. Today we are considering the subject of coaching in cricket. What makes a good coach? How many coaches does a team need? What does a coach do? How do you build and sustain success on the cricket field? I'm delighted to say that with me to answer those questions is a man with plenty of credentials to do so. As assistant coach of Surrey, Jim Troughton has helped bring 3 successive championship titles to the Oval in the last 3 years. In a way, it's 4 successive titles for Jim because in the preceding year, 2021, it was effectively his Warwickshire team that won the title that year. He was rather bizarrely sacked the previous September, but I think Warwickshire's fans would say it's Jim's team what won it in 2021. Jim, a very warm welcome. So what does a coach do?
Oh, blimey, thank you, Brian. Thanks for those lovely, kind words. What does a coach do? Look, I feel that my role as a coach, or a role of coaches, is, I've thought about this quite a lot, is that at the end of the day, the coach is there to improve players. The methods in which he does that, I feel, can work very differently for the type of player, experience and skill level they're working with. But essentially, you want to create an environment, create a relationship with a player and with a team that accelerates learning and improves performance. And I've been very fortunate to work with young academy players right up to international players. And I think a skill of a coach is to recognise that you've got many tools to draw out that skill and improve that skill, and methods in which doing that, because I think if you use the same method across the board, it's not going to hit with every player. So knowing when to speak, knowing when to shut up, knowing whether that person appreciates being just told very clearly, clean feedback, or might need to be led a little bit to find it. But essentially with cricket, it's such a team game but very individual, you want to create players that are self-motivated, self-disciplined, and can work things out themselves very, very quickly, because at the end of the day, it's their career, it's their livelihood, and they want to be getting better and better each day.
So it sounds like obviously the objective is to make each individual a better cricketer. To do that, you've got to read that individual. It's almost more about the personality and how you can improve them, how you can engage with them, and then you get onto the technical side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously the technical knowledge that you have as a coach that you gain over a long career, and whether you do badges or not, it doesn't mean you're a better coach or a worse coach. But recognising how you put a point across or how you draw out somebody's ability is it works differently for different players, but connection is the key. I think it's the way we exist as a species. Without connecting, we don't advance, in my view, or we don't feel part of something. So there's the sort of holistic way of gaining that relationship with a player, so you can be in a position to challenge and support. But then also you need to have the technical knowledge and the conviction of what you feel is the best way to go about improving a player. And being open-minded as well, that you're constantly going to learn from your players and from your coaches around you, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. You know, I remember doing my level 4, Gordon Lord was the sort of head coach of the education department of the ECB, and he used a good quote that we always thought was relevant to coaching was, if your only tool in your belt is a hammer, you'll treat every situation as a nail. And that for me sort of really does sort of ring true, because I've worked with young players that I use certain methods and certain ways to coach, and it could be, you know, very direct and almost a little bit of tell, because they don't know what they don't know. But then there's times when you step back and you let them figure things out for yourself. And then I've worked with high-end international players where I'm just there to throw to them and shut up. And they just need half an hour of my time and my arm for them, who know exactly what they're doing, to get themselves ready for the next game. There are times you might see things, and how you speak about those things and draw it out of people is different. But I find that the most interesting thing about, you know, I've been a head coach and I've been a sort of assistant coach, which is a bit more intimate one-to-one, and you can maybe have conversations as a specialist coach that you can't necessarily have as a head coach all the time. So being able to see both sides and both environments is I think, valuable for me as a coach moving forward, but also hopefully you recognise players that can really learn quickly and improve quickly.
It's interesting what you say about sometimes just throwing down to the better players is enough, because I remember talking to Steve Perryman recently, and he said when Warwickshire signed Dale Steyn, once Dale Steyn just bowled, he said, "Coach, can I just bowl at you for 40 minutes? And Steve was with the mitt and didn't say a word because Dale was bowling beautifully. And sometimes I guess the coach needs to know when not to talk as well as to talk, because coaches can do damage, can't they?
They can. I think sometimes, especially when you first come into coaching, you want to feel like you're doing your job. So there can be the tendency of like, okay, if I'm to coach, I better show that I'm giving information and trying to improve. But as you probably gain a little bit more experience, you realise shutting up and not jumping in too soon is really valuable, because at the end of the day, I know as a player, when I was a player, it was me that had to drive my game. It was brilliant, the coaches I worked with and the insights that they gave me. But essentially, you need these people to be self-sufficient, because you've got, 25 on a staff and everyone bats. So as a batting coach, you can't be everywhere all the time. But what you want to do is try and early in their careers, they need to work out, how do I prepare? What are my processes? How do I score runs in all forms? How do I manage form and failure? How do I improve? All these elements to come to being a good cricketer, that they need to be able to learn those really quickly. So then, as a coach, you just facilitate them. So there's that time where you need to get right in amongst it. There's some real steep learning that needs to be happening. But then it's almost coaching come easy when you've got someone who's absolutely flying and you're just fine-tuning them. And I would always say with any players, it's about keeping them balanced and level. So never believe the hype and never believe the critic. So, you know what I mean? It's keeping them on that balance. So when they're scoring hundreds, you're not from the rooftops, and also when you go for a couple of bad innings, you're not, down in the dumps and you can't get yourself back to that sort of equilibrium. So there's so many elements: technical side, tactical side, mental side is so crucial.
Building success is difficult, sustaining it arguably even more so. Let's just talk about Surrey at the moment. 3 successive championships, and I know Warwickshire won the championship in 1951 and Surrey won the next 7. Warwickshire won it in 2021. Could Surrey win the next 7? It's a powerful unit you've got.
Yeah, it's a powerful unit. I think if you look at when I first came to Surrey in 2022, obviously I know they're a powerhouse of a club. At the moment, it's 31 on staff, that's a big staff because of white ball, red ball contracts that they've got. They've got a number of guys who just play one form, and they have a high number of England players. So that kind of necessitates having a bigger squad. But the strength in depth is the key. That what I noticed when I first came is that you've obviously got your high-end international players, guys who've played international cricket as well, who are still very hungry to create a legacy at the club, and some young players who are highly skilled and hungry as well. So it's that mixture of the skill level, but also the work ethic was what struck me as well, and the alignment that there is through the club, from the guy at the top, the gaffer, Alex Stewart, to Rory Burns with Gareth Batty as your head coach. There's an alignment there of how they go about the business, how they win games of cricket at home, and how they keep the balance of a very big squad. They're used to that size and people coming in from England and not, and they deal with that quite well. Everyone understands that Surrey and England and franchise cricket is all in that melting pot, and that dressing room can be like a very busy place, but they really deal with that very, very well. And when you talk about sustaining success, that's the thing, is it's not a destination. It's not, oh, we've won, we've completed the task. It's actually you've got to go again. And funnily enough, that first championship win was brilliant. The second one was really difficult because the statistic of teams going down as opposed to winning it again is actually higher. Because you know that going back to back is a tough thing to do, and not many teams have done it. And that felt like a struggle in 2023. And we probably didn't play our best cricket as a group. Individual performances wise we did, but as a group it was a lot tougher. And then to do 3 on the bounce was as well as we've played in those 3 years in terms of the group coming together and putting in performances. So really pleasing to do that, and to do 3 on the bounce, which hasn't been done since the 50s, since the Yorkshire team led by Brian Close. And from what I'm seeing and the chats I had at the end of that season, it's very much forward facing now to, right, 4 and 4's a possibility here. If we continue to work, we don't lose players to injury and too many England call-ups, because that's always going to be the thing that affects the squad. Continue to sign high value overseas players. And now I'm very much, my role is really focusing on a group of batters now who are knocking on the door. We need to try and accelerate their learning and skills so there's not a gap between the senior and the junior players, because down the line, you know, things change. Sport is cyclical. Ask Man City. You need to be ready for when players get to the end of their careers or they get picked for England, that what's coming through is really in a strong place as well.
Sport is cyclical, as you say, and I guess an element of it now, you touched on it there, is you've won 3 on the trot. That's already a historic achievement, isn't it? It must be quite tempting now to say, come on, let's see how far we can take this.
Yeah, it is. It's the guys, you know, because at the beginning of the previous season, Alex Stewart said that he was leaving, he was retiring at the end of the year. So there was very much this drive to, right, we've absolutely got to win this 3rd one for the gaffer. And you know, he's now staying on in a capacity now, so he's not gone, but there was a focus there. But it is the hunger. And I said this when I first came to Surrey. I played against a Surrey team in the sort of post Hollyoak era where they dominated, sort of 99, 2000, 2001, 2002, around that era when they won 2 or 3 Champos. And from the outside, Surrey was a big club. They had the finances to go and buy in players. But I often felt like the work ethic wasn't really underpinning the big names that they were signing. So there was we're Surrey, but without the steely work ethic of trying to get better every day. When I came in 2022 through the work of Vikram Solanki, Gareth Batty and the coaches there, and Rory Burns is a fantastic club captain, there's the mixture of we're highly skilled, but we're working harder than any other team. Do you know what I mean? We are going to have that real drive to succeed, rather than we've got the strut, which people talk about the Surrey strut, in those sort of 200s to 210s around there. And obviously they won it in 18. So to win 4 Champos in that sort of 5-6 year period is a hell of an effort.
You're the last fella to big yourself up, but clearly you've done well since you arrived. Just who were the influences? You played with a lot of fine players and under and with a lot of fine coaches. Who have been the influences on your career?
Growing up at Warwickshire and coming into those indoor nets as a 12-year-old, when you had the trio of Aberley, Rouse and Perriman, it's absolutely had a huge effect on me as a player, a young player. 3, when we talk about coaching and different ways of getting points across, Aberley, Rouse and Perriman, net 1, net 2, net 3, you would have 3 very different styles of coaching. So if I'm looking back now as a player and then thinking now as a coach, you knew with Perez you'd get a very personal, empathetic touch with your coaching, and you'd have chats with him before you went into bat at the top of the net, and that support you felt was always there. With Rousey in the middle, everything would be yelled at 22 yards. He'd tell all the bowlers to whack you on the head. He'd chalk a cross on your helmet with chalk. You know, it was sink or swim, but in a really healthy, old school way. It was good fun. And he was, when he used to bowl, he could hit people on the head at will, you know what I mean? And young 12, 13-year-olds. And it would be fun, but scary. But, you know, it was a good place. And then with Aberley, Neil Aberley, he was tough, old school. So you knew you had to be on it all the time. He was brutally honest. And sometimes you walk away thinking, blimey, right, I need some work to do. But actually, for that era of batters that came through under him, you know, the likes of Belly, myself, me and Westwood, and the players like Dougie Brown and Ashley Giles and Pot Welsh and all of that team in the 90s that came through that tough school of second team was very much down to Neil Aberley and the way he ran things. Bob Warren was my first team coach. He was brilliant. You know, he made you feel like you could go out there and score 100. The way he talked about the game, the way he talked about life, he was a joy to be around, and I really enjoyed him as someone to speak to on a cricket and just worldly friendly. He just always thought about the game in different ways. He was very innovative. John Inverarity is a batting guru, and the way he went about things, he was a really good influence on my cricket as well, in a similar way to Bob. And there's just, so that you think early days, they kind of shape how you are as a player, and then you look back and there's been some good coaches, there's been some average coaches, and you get just as much from both. And then playing with some brilliant players, seeing how they go about their business, you know, arguably two of the greatest Warwickshire batters of the modern era of Troughton Bell, you know, and the likes of Rokesy coming in as a young lad and as an all-rounder. And what's really exciting now is seeing these young players playing for England now, Mousley and Bethel, and it's been really enjoyable. And Sam Hain, seeing the development of these players who were at the back end of my career, Haney, and as a captain, and then I remember starting my level 4, and my first thing in level 4 coaching certificate was to do an interview with a young player on camera, and that was a 14-year-old Dan Mousley, of which we probably talked about Aston Villa for half of the 20-minute interview. And you fast forward, that was 2014, 15? Fast forward 11 years and seeing him going as he is now, it's really good to see.
And then, of course, you got your first director of coaching gig at Edgbaston, and then went to Surrey. I mean, they're two nice offices to be working in, aren't they, Edgbaston and the Oval? Yeah,
and I did a summer at Somerset as well, which was a real pleasure working with that. A team actually that I think punch above their weight in terms of the size of the club. You know, you put them in Surrey, they both had put themselves in positions to win trophies. Both very good catchment area for academies in terms of the private school links that they've got. And they do really well, and they're a well-run club. And I enjoyed my time down there working with the young players there as well. But yeah, it's when you got a phone call off Alex Stewart in sort of early 2022, where I'd interviewed for the Yorkshire assistant role, when Darren Goff had taken over as director of cricket and Otis Gibson was becoming the head coach. That kind of is weird, like losing the job at Warwickshire in COVID, very quiet across all fronts there. You know, it was very hard to find a way back into the game, but once we were out the other side of that, it's amazing how suddenly things come into place and interviews come along and phone calls happen, and you get a phone call off the gaffer. It's very hard to turn down an opportunity to go down to Surrey, and it's been a really enjoyable, successful 3 years. Not only obviously winning trophies, it feels odd when coaches talk about how many trophies they've won, because I didn't bowl a ball, I didn't take a catch, I didn't take a wicket. I'm just part of, like we talk about, facilitating and giving the players an environment and a learning structure to hopefully be the best that they can go and be. I'm part of that, and it's really good to see those guys not only pick up trophies but go to the next level. You know, seeing the development of Jamie Smith and Gus Atkinson and a young Tom Laws getting into the Lions and stuff, along with the senior players doing the business as well in both forms. It's been a really enjoyable 3 years.
What do you think is more satisfying, succeeding as a player or succeeding as part of a coaching team?
I was a player. Look, if you could play forever, most players would. I mean, I had to retire because my back packed in, and but it's so different. It's hard to say one's better than the other, but I don't think there'd be any coach out there that played that wouldn't say being part of a championship win, knowing you have been a part on the field, is a very different feeling to you're in the coaching staff and you're watching these players live their dreams. So I love coaching, as I've been doing over a decade now, and I can't actually remember what it felt like to play. It's just really odd how quickly you lose that memory. And it is really enjoyable to watch these guys achieve amazing things. but it's so different to doing it as a player.
Well, it's great that expertise honed very much in Warwickshire is proving so effective from yourself in Surrey, but it's not to say that things can't improve at the Oval yet, and maybe there's one or two bits of strategy from Edgbaston that you could still implement. I'm thinking Frank Foster in 1911 when he was captain, of course, but also coach as well. And I think you're as a bit of a cricket historian, you're aware of some of his strategies, like the day before Warwickshire needed to bowl Northamptonshire out to win the county championship in 1911. He kept them all up the previous night in the bar playing snooker and cards. Is that the sort of thing you perhaps could bring in at the Oval?
Yeah, I mean, that's the probably ultimate old school. There was another story at the Lords where he was out in the Turkish baths till 4 in the morning and then put himself down the batting order because he was probably a little bit worse for wear. Yeah, I think those days are probably gone. The guys, if they're going to be going to Turkish baths, probably more steam rooms and saunas now, and they're all part of memberships of very swanky places around South London to get their gym in and stuff. So they're actually redoing the changing rooms at Surrey, and it's going to be a very all singing, all dancing gym and recovery systems. But maybe that could be. I think there's a sauna, but maybe not a Turkish bath.
Jim, thanks very much for your time. All the best to yourself and Surrey for next season.